you for joining us on Student Docs. I'm your host, Carole Adrienne. Today we have another perspective on recovery options for opioid addiction from the Relentless documentary series. This powerful piece of investigative journalism from the Social Justice documentary program of Villanova University is a harsh look at the reality of addiction, and it is also filled with hope. In a few minutes, you'll meet the uniquely powerful and dedicated Barbara Williamson. Addiction truly knows no boundaries, and Barb, a bright and pretty girl from very privileged circumstances, became addicted in her teens. She spent almost a decade in and out of treatment facilities and programs and on the streets of Kensington in desolate circumstances. Today, Barb operates 17 recovery houses. My guest is Matt Marencik, a producer and the technical and editing supervisor of this documentary about Barbara Williamson's Way of Life Recovery House Network. Matt was originally a student in the Social Justice documentary program. Today he is an adjunct professor. Hi Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Your segment is unique in that you really shined the light on the other victims of addiction, the families. I was very struck by something I saw recently. There's a new character on Sesame Street. Her name is Carly, and her mom is in rehab for addiction. I know Sesame Street has dealt with homelessness, autism, a parent in prison, and now with addiction, which really says to me this is a bellwether for our society of how widespread it is that we have to explain it to toddlers. What was your focus on getting those moms we're going to see in the documentary clearly are still in pain?
First off, I actually read about that too, and clearly Sesame Street is taking a stance on the opioid epidemic, and they're trying to teach kids about addiction from a young age and to show them that they need to show empathy towards families that are going through this difficult thing, and what better way than to teach them this at a young age. And in terms of our film, we immediately, early on, thought that we need to get the parents' perspective because they're really the ones that are going through it all when this person who is being overcoming addiction or trying to find recovery is going through that process. So Barb's mom we see in this piece and Tyler's mom, the two of them really have to just be this strong backbone for this person, and it takes a toll. But I think once you see the piece, you realize that they kind of forgive them and they love them through it all.
It's a hard way to love, but they do. It does come through. Well, let's take a look because it is really a powerful statement that you guys have put together. So let's roll Way of Life.
Hi, Barbara. My name is Charles. I'm calling for an open bed, hoping there's an open bed in your recovery house in Lansdowne.
Hi, I'm calling. I'm looking for an open bed in one of the recovery houses for my niece. Hey, Barb, it's Monica. I'm calling about my daughter Molly, who will be arriving in East Lansdowne on Friday.
Barb, as a child, was a lot of fun. She had great energy. She was very social. She was the child that never wanted to stay at home. She never had the ability to entertain herself. She needed to be out and about. She was just very well known and very likable in the community as a child and early adolescent. How Barbara slipped into that dark world of opioids, reflecting back, how did I know all this was going on? Most of the time, you find out much later than it actually began. I do think that most parents, when they do have a child that is either drinking, using drugs, whatever, you only see the tip of the iceberg. Most of the reality is much deeper than what you're seeing.
I was in my first adolescent treatment center by 15 years old. I had really good parents, and I still struggled no matter what.
She'd come out, maybe do well for a little while, and slip right back into the same old life of using. That went on for years.
At this point, I was probably 23, 24 years old. I had already been in and out of maybe 15, 17 treatment centers. I ended up homeless in Kensington, Philadelphia, and I was pretty, beaten down, completely hopeless.
On a very serious level, she ended up on the streets of Philadelphia, resorting to desperate measures to keep her addiction fed. There were quite a few times I would go into the Philly streets, just driving up and down the streets, just in hopes to just pull her back in. It was that dire, it was that probable that the next step is I'm going to get that call to come identify her body. And I'm just so grateful that call never came. That call never came.
There was nothing really different about this day. A random man asked me if I would accept help, and he would take me to a treatment center. And I don't know exactly why, but I said yes that day, and he took me to Living Grin Foundation. Living Grin Foundation was the first treatment center that even mentioned to me what a sober living was, and it was what their recommendation was for me to go to a recovery house. I was born and raised in Bucks County. I've never heard of Levittown or what a recovery house even was, and I had been in and out in treatment centers for almost a decade at this point. So this was a good transition from rehab to a sober living, a community that showed me how to live sober. We lived together, we got well together, and when I got towards having a year sober, I was like, you know what, I would really love to do something just like this, but a little better, but with my twist. I saw some gaps in what I thought could be better or help people like me more. The really young opiate addict that was doing drugs and alcohol as an early teen. So I opened my first recovery house when I had 1 year sober. We're at the Newtown Athletic Club. The owner of this place is Jim Worthington, and he's also my partner for Way of Life Recovery and Supreme Wellness. The Newtown Athletic Club, just up the street from here. So I joined there and I was like, rich people go to the Newtown Athletic Club, I'm gonna find an investor at the NAC.
I don't remember how it came about, but I kind of mentioned, or maybe she did, or somehow we just came to the conclusion, and it made sense for me to support what she was doing because I saw that what she was doing was gonna really affect people and change lives and really save lives. What she does is save lives. She felt her life had been turned around and she just wanted to, do the same for other people that had the same issue she did.
Like, he saw something in me and he just took that chance. So I just ran with it to help as many people as possible in the best way. And eventually, Living Grin Foundation, the same treatment center that I went through, gave me a shot. And I was just pretty much a house that you went to Living Grin, then you came and lived that way of life. And now we have like 12 or 13 houses together and 3 outpatients. So yeah, it's interesting. I dedicate 3 to 4 days a week to going to all my houses. I stop at the NAC and then I go down to Levittown. We have 7 houses here. Then I stop in Morel and then just hop back on 95 and go down to my Delaware County houses. And then from the Delaware County to the Turnpike, back off at Willow Grove, and then, to my house. So it's like a huge circle. Every day I need to have a pulse on exactly what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what needs to be tweaked, what we heard is working for someone else in another country even. I mean, I'm obsessed with this, so it's all I do, is like try to have better outcomes.
I found Barb's recovery house in treatment. There was a guy there, he was telling me, look, you've been doing the same thing for your entire life and you've had the same results. I was 15 hanging out with like 18, 19-year-old kids. I hadn't done anything and they were all, into drugs and stuff like that. So I kind of did it to fit in. It progressed. I started getting involved with harder stuff like pills and cocaine, and eventually it just got to a point where the people I was hanging out with were doing heroin and things like that. So I justified it in my head that it would be not a huge deal, and I got hooked onto it pretty quickly.
One day he was supposed to run over to the doctor's, and I was supposed to go with him, and he said, "No, I'll go." I had thought had been gone a long time, and then my daughter and I were sitting here, and the cops called and said, "You need to come pick him up. He was in an accident." And we went and got him, and he had crashed his car. He shot up while he was driving, crashed into somebody, and when I saw him, I just remember I didn't know him. It was flipping me out. He was just walking around and not making sense, and that's probably the worst day out of all this. It was just that finding I had no idea. You should think you know your child.
They got to a point where they were just completely fed up with my drug use, and them letting me in their house was enabling me. It was either do what they wanted and get clean or continue to use, and said I'd rather live on the street than be in my family's house.
I remember one time it was freezing cold out, and I told him he couldn't come home, and he was outside screaming, "Mom, I'm cold, please let me in, please let me in." And it felt like when he was a baby, and you have to let them cry to go to sleep, and it's hard, you don't want to hear them cry, but you know it's what's best for them. And it was the same feeling. If he's doing the right things, or I feel like my help can actually help him, I have no problem with it. But you have to balance that with enabling, because they are so manipulative and you don't even know it. And you end up, feeding the addiction.
I was homeless in Kensington for about 2 months, 3 months. I was living under a bridge, under Second Lippincott. I was a shell of a person, It was about getting my next one and finding a place to sit down. And every $5 I would get, I'd go grab another bag and then just repeat.
Yeah, some things I just don't want to know, and I see the pictures and the videos on the news all the time, and different friends go down there and they give away water and look for their kids, and I don't want to imagine him there. And I'm glad that he made it out.
When I overdosed, that kind of changed something in me, where I realized that not only am I going to die, but I have people that care about me and love me, and it's not just about me. I'm hurting other people in the process of what I'm doing. So it gave me some sort of drive to want to be a better person. Barb, she's a mirror for us. We see the things that she does, and it gives us hope.
We have such similar experiences. I am that suburb kid that, parents did everything they could for me to turn out perfect. But I also walked in a lot of different shoes. Every obstacle a young adult runs into, I've ran into it and then broken past it. So it's like they can't say no, but you actually don't get it. I get all those struggles.
You have to have a job, you have to work a 12-step program and have a sponsor and actively try to change the way you live. You go to a group counseling session, you meet with a therapist. There's also the wellness side of it, which is different from what other outpatient facilities offer. At Barb, she tries to do it in a different way, and I think that that's a lot more helpful.
This is a male recovery house. These are some of my residents. Rooms, this is a typical bedroom. This is like a room that's in violations because they're supposed to make the beds. So they'll get like a behavioral warning. If they're not working or in school, they do an in-house job search. The in-house job search stops at 5 o'clock, and then people are either done job searching or coming home from work. And when they come home from work, as a house, they cook dinner together, then they clean together, which is their chore, and every day that chore is marked off. Then they go to a meeting together.
What's up, Barb?
Hey, you have to clean your room, for real. Don't even mind them, for real.
All right.
That room's rough in there.
All right.
It's embarrassing. Were you at work?
Yeah.
Did they get you gloves and hats?
No.
I heard you were bitching. Yeah, why were you guys bitching so much? You were bitching?
What?
About working?
This is all I have to wear. I was freezing cold.
All right, we'll get you sweatpants and gloves and hats.
I want
That's what they were supposed to get, make sure, you know?
Yeah. All right, superstar.
Shut up, dude. He is the worst, bro. All right, let's go. You know, you guys are seeing how Way of Life operates on any given day. No one knew I was coming. That's why rooms were trashed. If they knew I was coming, rooms would be perfect. But I like showing what it's really like.
Barb can be intense at times, but it's all out of love. You know, she really cares about the people in her house. I was having a hard time getting a job, and I was nervous, you know, I couldn't pay my rent. I don't know what's gonna happen. Am I gonna have to leave? And Barb came in my room and she said, look, everything's gonna be okay. And just little things like that, knowing that she has my back. It's not about the money, you know, it's about her helping the next person.
You know, he's young and he's a really good kid and he's like really lovable. And he just kind of falls through the same trapdoors as most, and it's instant gratification.
I would say what triggers me is the normal stressors that everybody else has. It's just the way that I deal with them is not the way that regular people deal with them, you know. When I get stressed out or anxious or uncomfortable, you know, my default is to go and pick up a drug. I relapsed here about 3 months ago. I used, thankfully it wasn't very long.
I wanted that year for him so bad. 340 days clean. I couldn't be worried about him forever.
I've done X, Y, and Z with Tyler multiple times, and it's like, you know, it's hard. It's really hard. I look at every failure and see what can I do differently and how can I change and how can I help more. That's the hardest part, when like someone is doing so well and like they're truly Way of Life family and their parents talk to me, like it's like we're raising the person together, and when it doesn't turn out right, that sucks. So I have to change that, like that's how I feel. Or, you know, you have to evolve with what's going on. Right now, 60% of people are staying sober. So only my method feels like it's only working for 6 out of 10 people. I figure out, well, what am I missing for that? You know, what am I missing for that 4?
I still have a drive to keep going, but when you look at the statistics of people in recovery and people in addiction, I mean, it's overwhelmingly low, you know. It's something in the single digits, but it also drives you. You know, you see that you don't have to be that person. You don't have to be the person that dies because of the addiction and the disease. Barb helped me get back into treatment and, you know, didn't give up on me. You know, she talked to me through the whole time I was in treatment, made sure that I had everything I need while I was in there. And then whenever I was ready to leave, she was here for me to move right back in.
But it's also my job to level with these people, because my sponsor, who saved my life, was the first woman that leveled with who I really was. Like that stopped letting me give all the excuses of why, you know? So I have to, you know, I do that because it's really important.
You know, when you give it time and you actually give the program a shot and listen to other people's suggestions, all the things that you wanted to come back and all those feelings come back. And right now, my main goal is to just, you know, not pick up, you know, not being the person I was before and just being a different kind of guy.
You can be young, get sober, and have an awesome life. And that's what I try to build day in, day out.
I see Barb and what she does for people, and it inspires me. You know, I know that with the right type of intervention and the right type of treatment, I have something to offer other people as well. And Barb gives me definitely a lot of hope.
I'll always have hope. I'll never give up on him. And I don't think anybody should give up on their child, because they are in there, and when they're clean, they want to be clean, and they're trying. Put the shame aside, because that's part of what keeps them in the cycle. So the more parents talk about it and bring other parents in and let them know it's okay, I think the less stigma there'll be and the more help we'll actually get.
Life is so much different whenever you're clean. You know, life is so much better, and the things that you don't think are going to change will change and will get better. It takes time, but it's so rewarding in the end.
They can do anything they want in life, you know, like they were being told since they were kids, you know, and at one point they stopped believing that. just like I did. And, someone like Jim restored my faith in myself, and that's something that you can't put a price tag or value on that. So that's what I try to do for them, is like instill self-worth and purpose into each client. A lot of parents and people reach out to me and are always cheering on my success, and they think I'm like this great person, and I'm really hesitant. I always tell every parent, every client or treatment center that these people, my clients, the people that wake up and stay sober day in, day out, they deserve the credit for that success.
I hope that Barbara's endeavor in this business will continue because there's such a great need for it. I hope she remains grounded and never forget how horrible and the despair she felt, so she can empathize with those coming through her doors and the parents or families of the people with whom she's dealing. She can't forget the grime she crawled through to get where she is today. You can't forget that. I'm hoping she does hang on to that. So I'm proud that she has embraced recovery and wants to be instrumental in helping others do the same. Personally, she's embracing parenthood now. She's loving it. It's making her think, if I ever lost this person, I would never be whole. That would be eviscerating. And she has a respect for what she did to those around her. And I truly think what she's doing is her subconscious way of making amends to all of us that she's hurt along the way. And she knows it now. Now that she's a parent, oh my gosh. She's constantly, without realizing how much, she's making amends to those around her.
Matt, that is such a powerful piece. And I love that Barb really is intent on helping people find their self-worth and feel it, and later kind of develop a passion as part of recovery. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, well, she's trying to do for her clients what was done for her. I mean, let's face it, Barb did some bad stuff in her teenage years and put a lot of people through a lot. But when she found her recovery, she found it through this specific recovery home that she was in, who had a very specific plan. And then she also found, hope and self-worth through Jim Worthington, who allowed her to exercise her entrepreneurial spirit and do what she likes to do, which was, help others. And she's trying to do that for her clients as well. She's helping them get jobs. One of her clients wanted to become a plumber, so she helped him get his plumbing business off the ground, and he's doing good. I just actually found out recently that Tyler is doing well, so
I was wondering
that's great
about
news.
Tyler.
Yeah,
he's doing well?
He's doing well.
Good.
So it's really about her doing what was done for her clients.
Apparently now she has a new perspective too, because she has twin toddlers, right? So she's looking at it as a parent as well.
Absolutely. And in the piece, Barb's mother kind of states that, this could be Barb's, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, this is possibly her way of making amends. Now that she's a mother, she realizes that she couldn't bear to be put through things that she put her mother through by her kids. So she realizes it now more as a parent, and everybody she's helping and everything she's doing is potentially her way of making amends for what she's done.
Yeah, amends came into it as an important factor, because really when you're going through something terrible like addiction and even recovery, you're putting your family and friends through a lot too. And I had not thought about that aspect of it, of the making amends or real atoning in a way for past discrepancies and sins, crimes, however you want to define that. But and Barb's mother feels strongly about that.
And absolutely, making amends is also included in the 12-step recovery process, which is taught at her homes. So it's a big theme in the piece. Also, what's unique about Barb is she takes clients that are using MAT in, and that's kind of how we got in touch with her in the first place.
That's the methadone, that's medically assisted treatment, MAT, right?
Correct, correct. So she doesn't discriminate towards any type of recovery. She just feels, and she's open to new things. She only has a 6 out of 10 success rate, and she's open to always trying new things, and she's not going to shut out MAT, she's not going to shut out 12 steps, so it's really doing everything.
I was impressed by that she did not have a hard and fast, you must adhere to this particular program. She's always observing and analyzing and thinking, what can I do differently? What can I do better? I found that really open-minded and impressive. So, so she's got 17 recovery houses now, Barb. And I love that scene where she's spending 3 days a week at least driving from one to another and checking up. But everybody pays rent?
Yeah, everybody pays their own rent. Everybody's required to go get a job, get a sponsor. They have to go to meetings, and it's very strict and regimented, but that's what worked for her. So she's going to use that in her way of life. Her way of life.
Well, 6 out of 10, it sounds like pretty good odds to me, and she's still working on bringing them up. So,
at the same time, she'll never be like, I'm going to take credit for those 6, because at the same time, that would mean she'd have to take credit for those 4, not take credit, take the opposite of credit for those 4 who don't make it. So she says if a client succeeds, it's because they did it themselves. So she just put some tools in place for them, and they really, they are their recovery.
So you teach a man to fish. It's a beautiful thing she's doing. Thank you again for joining us. Please know there are a myriad of programs and treatment options for opioid addiction, and sometimes recovery requires multiple attempts. So anything worth achieving is worth working for, and recovery is a journey. Any positive step on that journey, whether it's the first time or the 20th time, is a step into the light. We encourage anyone struggling with addiction and their families, please keep reaching out for help and support. Here are some helplines for Barb and other agencies in our area. Get Help Now hotline, 800-662-4357. The Pennsylvania Get Help hotline, 717-216-0905. The Drug and Alcohol programs for Pennsylvania, 717-783-8675. And to reach Barb Williamson's Way of Life Network, 267-980-7069, or online info@hustlehope.com. Please join us next time on Student Docs. I'm Carole Adrienne, the writer-producer of the Civil War Medicine documentary series in production, and you can check out my series and its trailer at www.civilwarrx.com.